Wow, I didn't know humans could do that. Before we hop into this ranking of the humans of Record of Ragnarok's abilities, please do me a favor, leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Now, let's get into it. What's up, guys? I got the pencil here, and here we are to rank the abilities of humanity from Record of Ragnarok. Now, I really like the humans' abilities, especially considering I wasn't expecting us to have any abilities. I'm not gonna lie. I seriously was just like, oh, we're humans. Last I checked, we can't even fly, so I don't think we're going to be doing too good. But no, actually seeing the different abilities that every single human has had so far, they've been really interesting, and I've liked them. And while some of them have been simpler than others, I think they all are seriously good for their respective character, which is why I like them a lot. So let's waste no more time and hop right into it with number 5. Alright, so I do legitimately enjoy Lubu as a character. However, I'm not entirely sure what his ability was. I'm going to say it was Sky Eater. I'm going to rock with that, because other than that, I'm not exactly sure if Lubu had like a special ability. Was that really it? Like, was it just his extreme strength? Because if so, extreme strength has been done better within the series. So I'm not sure. Like, that's the thing. I'm going to qualify it as Sky Eater, but my main issue with Sky Eater or his immense strength is that it fell flat against the gods. That's the main issue. Every other ability on this list either affected the character in some sort of interesting way, or affected their fight in some sort of interesting way, or in a lot of cases both. So not to say that Lubu's strength didn't affect him as a character. That strength is what gave him the position as the strongest man in the world, and is what made him so apathetic towards life. So I'm not saying that his strength had no impact on him, and I'm not saying that Sky Eater had no impact on him. I love seeing Lubu training again and again, breaking all his weapons just to achieve that peak, that final touch, that final cut through the world and breaking open the sky. That was great to see, and seeing him using in store was wonderful. However, the main issue is by the time we get to Sky Eater, by the time we realize that this is Lubu's final attack, it gets devalued instantaneously. Like, unlike the other abilities, where one way or another, even if the human loses, we understand what that ability was, how it affects them, and how cool it was, and it has multiple uses and applications. Lubu's strength was sort of a supplementary thing. It was the vanguard of humanity's only thing that he really stood for. Sure, he was a good fighter, and Sky Eater is still amazingly cool, because seeing it split the sky like that is legendary. But in terms of actual usage, in terms of how cool it was, I think it just has to go to the bottom. I don't have much to say about it, and that's the main issue. I'd say pretty much every other ability on the list has something about it that I really, really enjoy, whether it be how it affects the character, or how it affects the fight, or how it affects both. And while I think Sky Eater and Lubu's strength being a great reason for why Lubu and Thor could have been rivals in another life, as cool as I think that is, obviously they weren't rivals in the moment, because Thor kind of bodied him. It was after the Lubu landed that first slice. No, he didn't hit Thor again. He was forced to block, and Lubu broke down. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something. If Lubu did have a special ability that I'm just forgetting, then please don't hesitate to drop in the comment section below and be like, you idiot, you forgot this, because I forget things. But at the moment, all I can think of is Sky Eater. I mean, it's a cool technique, and I can think of Lubu's strength, and that's a cool amount of power, but I don't know, it's not enough for me to put it anywhere near above the rest of the abilities here. So I'm going to have to leave it at a cool number 5. However, let's hop right into number 4. So here's the thing. I talked about how advancing one's strength is cool, and I stand by that. So I'm going to lean with it, rock with it when I say Raiden's 100 seals and his muscle augmentation. All that's really, really cool. However, the only reason this ability like loses any sort of respect for me or any sort of prevalence is it looks kind of dumb. I'm not gonna lie. The gigantic hand, the gigantic arm shield, everything, while it's cool to see Raiden have 100% control over his muscles, something he's never had before in his life, I just don't vibe with it that much. Like, it's not something that I can fully appreciate because of the sheer look of it. Like, I understand how the 100 seals and Raiden's extreme muscle mass affected his life. It was a terrible part of him that made him stand out, made him be a monster. He could never enjoy himself truly. And only in this fight to the death could he really experience his 100% full power against an actual rival. And I like that. All that's really, really cool. But where it lacks for me, where I'm like, especially in comparison to the other abilities, is that simply by the appearance of it, it looks sort of dumb. Like, I don't know. I've never been able to fully get behind the idea of something like that. Like I would have appreciated it if Raiden's pure strength had stayed in the sense of where like he can control the impact force of his muscles. Like he could tense up his arm, like basically what he did with the thrusting palm, where all of that strength went into his arm, but his arm didn't like bloat up. It didn't swell to super massive sizes and then do more power. He literally just, through the sheer technique of it, he slammed his hand into it and disarmed Shiva. That was cool. I like it when the muscle power is used like that. But whenever he goes to make the meat shield against Shiva's kicks, whenever he goes to make the super big hands, all that stuff, it's cool concept, just not executed well enough in my mind. And while I do think it's a better than Blue Boo's because it affects Raiden more personally in my mind, and it also is just a more visual, separate ability that no other human has. A lot of people can just show off strength. I think it just doesn't do enough. It's not meaty enough for me to be like, yeah, I like this. But at the same time, it is meaty enough because the strength has good character implications. And I love the look of the 100 seals on his body and how much it affected him. However, in terms of the rest of the abilities that we've seen and how well they appear, not only as character tools, which I like abilities being, obviously I love when abilities feed into a character and how they live their life based on that ability, but also I also like when abilities have an aesthetic to them that is aesthetically pleasing. Like I like to look at an ability and be like, yeah, that's cool. I look at Raiden's ability, and honestly, I would prefer to have Lubu's strength, because at least Lubu, he just looks, I mean, he's still a monster of a man, but he looks a bit more normal than what Raiden had, because Raiden was different. That's all I have to say. Raiden was just something else. And while I can respect that, I don't know, it's just never been aesthetically interesting to me. And whatever aesthetic interest it does have, it looks kind of whack. That's all I have to say. But enough of that. Let's move on from number 4 to number 3. Alright, so I do enjoy Jack's Eye. I think it's a very interesting ability because it's completely independent to him, and honestly, to be completely real, it doesn't have that much combat application. It's literally just an extra perk he gets that feeds purely into his character. However, the reason it sneaks above both Raiden and Lubu is because of how much it does for Jack as a character. Jack's motivation and purity and ability to gain that eye, the eye that allows him to see all of a person's true colors, all that, it's such a great ability for Jack the Ripper. Specifically, how it feeds into his character is what makes that ability so cool. And I love how the goal that Jack has throughout the Heracles fight is not necessarily to just kill Hercules. Or I see, look, I flipped right there. Not to just kill Heracles, but it's also to change his color. He wants to dye Heracles in his favorite color. And the way that guides Jack throughout the fight to make Heracles break down, to do that, just to keep observing him with that one special eye, I like it. It's not anything too crazy. It's just an eye that allows you to see an opponent's true colors. And so far, it doesn't seem to have any other special perks than that. But because of what that does for Jack as a character, how much it feeds into who Jack is, why the colors have manipulated his life and how he views people's lives and how he wants to see his favorite color over and over again, and how he's been able to develop and learn different things about people through observing their colors. And also, I just like the ability as a general sense because it's going to allow us to learn more about different types of characters. What Jack did by having this ability as a human is that since he's alive, we're going to be able to learn more about other characters through him. Learning about the 7 lucky gods through Jack, seeing just one aura, when technically there should be 7 of them, is really, really cool. I like those little extra details. I like that eye doesn't just feed into the fight itself, but it also feeds into Jack himself and also feeds into the world himself. It's not the world itself, the world himself, the world itself. It does so much despite being so little. Like, that's the nice balance I enjoy about the eye a lot. It has loads of implications for Jack as a character, as it explains all of his motivations behind him, and it gives him a reason to be this monster because he saw his mom's true color, but it also gives him reason to fight against Heracles beyond the simple fact of, oh, I'm a human, I gotta fight for humanity, it'd be like that when it'd be like that sometimes. It also just gives them it gives extra layers to Jack it gives extra layers to Jack and extra layers to the world. Everyone has their own color. We just haven't seen them all yet, and I like that. It's so much little bits and pieces that make Jack interesting that make me really enjoy the eye. Could it had more to it? Like, yeah, I honestly would have liked to see if it had some sort of see-through properties. Like, if Jack wants to look at, if Jack looks at something hard enough, he can see a person in a room based on the fact that his eye is able to discern their color, which transcends the room and transcends the walls and barriers. Obviously, I understand it's a more limited ability. It's not something that's supposed to go that far, and I'm perfectly fine with that. That's cool. I can work with that. And honestly, he doesn't need to be anything more. It does enough as it is that I'm perfectly fine with what it is at the moment. So yeah, the manga doesn't need to add anything to it. I just think it would be a little bit cooler if it had a little bit more, but at the moment, it's still better than the previous two abilities because of how much it does for Jack as a character, how much it does for the world, and how much it does for everybody. It's free. However, it's not number 2. Let's get into that. So, the 1,000 image defense is one of the coolest things that I've ever seen, especially because of what it stands for. So here's the thing, the 1,000 image defense reminds me 1,000,000% of the Sharingan, because technically, you aren't actually reading your opponent's future. You aren't actually doing anything with a 1,000 image defense of that caliber. You aren't peering into your opponent's future and being like, oh, I know what move they're going to make. You're literally analyzing your opponent to the point that you can predict every single one of their movements and preemptively dodge them. You're guessing ahead of them. And that is such a cool ability for someone like Sasuke to have, because it explains why he loses every single fight. Because technically, he has gotten what he needed from them. Being the ultimate scanner, all he needs to do is observe you. He figured out how Poseidon fought perfectly and fought him so many times in his head by the way he walked, by his breathing, by his gait, everything just by observing him. Poseidon did not swing his weapon once until Sasuke came into the picture, except it didn't matter because Sasuke had completely read Poseidon like an actual full-on book. He got the PDF file. Sasuke got the answer sheet way before the test even came out, and I think that's so cool. The idea that this is not a perfect system. This is not something that allows you to just instantly react, adapt, perfectly fine. You don't have to worry about it. It's basically free. The fact that this comes with the cost of, oh no, you better be able to predict your opponent's movements and then be able to react to them. That's the extra bonus cost that I like a lot with a 1,000 image defense in comparison to other abilities like it. Because the thing is, if your opponent's just too fast for you to read, tough noogies, bro. You're gonna die. That's the great thing. I love it because you can see Sasuke's like, yeah, I got this. I read this. I saw this too. I'm doing good. And then Poseidon's like, nah, B, I can't let you do that. And then he just goes faster, and Sasuke's forced to adapt again. And I think that's what I love the most. The 1,000 image defense is a constant evolution because it's not just 1,000 images, it's 1,000, and then 1,000 more, and then 1,000 more, and then 1,000 more, because you got to start predicting. You have to start predicting your opponent's predictions, and if they start to predict what you're predicting of them, you have to change that prediction even more. Like, when Poseidon reads Sasuke's prediction and then moves in another way, and then Sasuke has to begin to calculate the fact that that Poseidon can move that quickly, think that quickly, and act that quickly, all in instance. It's amazing the way the fight feeds off of each other. That's just the fight. Let me even just stop talking about the fight. Let's talk about the implications this has for Sasuke's character. The 1,000 image defense is something born out of Sasuke's necessity. The man never wanted to ruin his battle prospects, so all he would have to do was learn how to scan. And he kept scanning, and he kept scanning, and he kept absorbing. By being the ultimate scanner, by learning so much, by doing so much, he managed to accumulate all these different abilities. The reason he's able to wield every single swordsman ability so well is because of what he does. Because of the fact that he managed to observe them all. He scanned them all, and they all became a part of Sasuke. To see how his ability allowed him to do this and how it fed into him as a character, which led to him being able to defeat Poseidon, because Poseidon wasn't just fighting one man, he was just fighting the entire history of swordsmanship through Sasuke because of his ability. It's so great. I love it. And the way, honestly, one of my favorite moments in the entire manga is when Sasuke just stands there and the panel says he scanned all of creation at once, and I'm like, that's it. That's it. He wins. He all of it, like the heavens, the earth, everything. He scanned all of it. I'm leaning with it, rocking with it. Go ahead, Sasuke. You do your darn thing, bro. And that's what I love. It's the idea that Sasuke's ability isn't something stagnant. It's not something that's locked in place and then that's it. 1,000 image defense. You're done, son. You have a constant evolutionary ability that reacts and grows with Sasuke himself and feeds into different parts of Sasuke. It's a great ability. once again, there's a gap between Jack's eye and this. Like, that's the thing. There are really conceivable gaps between every single one of these abilities. And that's why number one takes the cake just easily. The eyes of the Lord are the perfect ability. They are the perfect ability. You want to know why? Because it doesn't just feed into Adam's character. It doesn't just feed into Adam's fight. It doesn't just feed into the fight's conclusion. It also feeds into humanity itself. Every single human being in one way or another has the eyes of the Lord. Think about that. We observe things and we copy them and we attempt to make them better. We constantly learn and grow, just like Adam does. We reflect the nature around us and we adapt and survive from it. It's so good. Literally, here's the thing. Let me just tackle the eyes of the Lord as an ability first. So, why did it stop? One, there's nothing, like, you look at Adam's eyes, and sure, you may be able to tell something's a little bit different about them, but they aren't necessarily that distinguishable. He just observes things. That's the thing that I love about the ability so much. It's such a simple looking ability. He observes Zeus, dodges, and then instantly pays him back. It's like a return fee. The way Zeus goes, oh, I feel like I'm fighting a mirror image of myself. It's great. It's accurate. It's true. It's legendary. But not just that. Not only does it allow you to completely observe your opponent's abilities, even in stopped time, the fist that surpassed time was nothing to Adam because he simply observed it and he made it better. And to see that, the ability to observe your opponent through all means necessary and then instantly replicate their ability, beautiful. I love it. But not only that, the way the eyes of the Lord are really not just the eyes, but the body. The way that Adam is able to manipulate his body in order to work in similar ways to his opponent's techniques is really, really cool. The way that you see in the backstory where Adam slices through the serpent, because his body literally shifted and molded to adapt claws to mimic the attack. That's amazing. Obviously, like, my favorite usage of the eyes of the Lord is simply the fist that surpassed time. I have to admit it, because the way that moment happens, because Zeus has the same logical perception as the audience would. Okay, so as long as he sees it, he can copy it. So what if he can't see it because he's not allowed to move? So when Zeus reels back, I really thought in that moment the eyes of the Lord were just going to fail Adam. He was going to take a clock to the face and that was it. But no, time freezes. You get the freeze frame of Adam in that negative mode in time stop. And then you just see, bam, Zeus falls to the ground and gets his neck snapped. It's a beautiful ability, all right? And here's the thing. It'd be one thing if it was just like this no-cost ability, because, you know, eyes of the Lord, he's the first man, so obviously it has to be a perfect ability, right? No. The way that his body is forced to take the toll of every single attack he was supposed to dodge and then recreate better, the way that it slowly begins to burn him out because his body is simply not that. It's a powerful figure. It's a powerful form, but it's not powerful enough. It's not divine. And the way you see Adam slowly break down, because Zeus is just a literal superior being, the supreme deity who stands above all others. And you see Adam just begin to bleed. He nosebleeds out of nowhere. But however, he understands that if he stops using the eyes of the Lord, if he stops using his ability, that he will die. And he just keeps pushing. And then finally, when that drop of blood, the mangaka does a great job of just letting the drop of blood slowly travel to Adam's eyes. And then the glass shatters. And then Zeus lands that hit. It's such a... It then leans more towards the fight, but not the ability. But the reason I like the ability so much is because, reasonably, if you're fighting Adam and he's able to copy you, unless you have some form of regeneration, unless you have some form of divinity, you've lost. Because of how powerful that ability is. He can mold his body to mimic you. And the only real question I have is what happens if your opponent is wielding a weapon? Is Adam able to just dodge it? Or for a moment, can he manipulate, like say Lubu went to use Sky Eater on Adam. Would Adam be able to dodge it, then raise his hand in almost like a chopping motion, and then bring it down to mimic Sky Eater? Would that work like that? Say that, I'm not even sure how this would work, but say that Adam witnesses Gerard, the Thor's hammer, and he swings it back, and he dodges it. Does that mean he's going to take the weapon from Thor? Or does that mean that he is literally going to almost mimic himself and throw himself as a weapon at The reason I love the Eyes of the Lord so much as an ability is because it leads me to asking these so many interesting questions. Like, I want to see how Adam matches up against a person with a weapon. I want to see how Adam fights different types of people. I want to see it. I want to see so much more. And while I do want to see more with the 1,000 image defense, and I want to see more Jack's eye, there's nothing I want to see more than Adam's eyes and what they can do. What's their limit outside of his sheer biological limit? But we can't get that because he's gone. And speaking of him being gone, I love how it feeds into him as a character. The ultimate survivalist, the person who mimics all and is able to pass that gift down to the rest of humanity. Honestly, here's the thing. The reason the Eyes of the Lord are my favorite is the reason I mentioned at the start. Every person has the Eyes of the Lord. And it's such a perfect ability for humanity as a whole, because the scanning ability is a lesser version of Eyes of the Lord. Every single time a human learns something, it's a lesser version of Eyes of the Lord. It's the ability that we have to copy, to learn, to better ourselves, to adapt, that makes the ability perfect in my mind. And the cost that it comes with, fantastic. How to use in the fight, fantastic. And honestly, man, I just wish the old man was still around, because it would have been so cool to see more of him. But obviously he's gone now. But his ability, I'm not sure if it's going to be topped by any other human. Like, hands down, it's that great. But tell me what you guys think. What's your favorite ability in Ragnarok? In fact, drop your top 5 list. I need to know. We got 5 of them. I know you've thought about this before. Which one would you want? Honestly, it's an easy answer for me. I'll take Eyes of the Lord. Even though it comes with such a heavy cost to my body, man, as long as I don't run into Zeus or any of the gods themselves, I'm working somebody with Eyes of the Lord. But tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.